Hi everybody, my name is Jo and I love to read. Today I'm going to be doing a video comparing the last book in the Kingsbridge series, The Armour of Light, to the first book, The Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. I'm just going to be talking about my broad thoughts and why I think the quality has dipped a little bit from the first masterpiece to the latest one. I'm going to be super dramatic and name this video The Rise and Fall of the Kingsbridge series, but it is a bit dramatic because I still think that the last book was worth reading. I still had a good time with it, but it was not as good as the first one. Very interested to see when I'm going to continue reading Ken Follett. I am going to read his Century trilogy, or at least the first one, and then decide based on that book whether I want to keep reading him or not. In The Armour of Light, I feel like the story was too big for the size of the novel that ended up being produced. I think that this was missing a lot of emotion. At the very start, we've got Sal in 1792. She's married with a child and her husband is killed in an accident. That I felt when he got hit in the accident, that was a very good display of emotion. The writing was fantastic. I felt really bad for her. And then we flick to another perspective and then we flick back to Sal when he dies and all the emotion is just evaporated from the scene and I didn't care that he died. Ken Follett in this book, in An Armour of Light, misses so many crucial emotive moments that it was really disappointing. There were so many things that he told us about and didn't show us about, and it was really frustrating. Kit being promoted to manager for the first time. Here's this young boy from impoverished family of a peasant working in the fields, and then his mother who is a labourer doing weaving and cloth work. They are not rich at all, can barely make it by, and he has sailed up the ranks enough as a kid and an early teens to become a manager of this super productive mill. We don't get to see him being made manager. We don't get to see the moment where he is promoted, and we don't get to see him managing anyone at all. We don't get to feel his happiness and delight at being taken notice of his work being recognized. I miss that. I so miss that. Ken Follett in The Pillars of the Earth told this fantastic story of triumph. He really got you to feel for the characters. We've got Philip Prior, who is his last name isn't Prior. We've got Philip the Prior, and we get to be with him as he's taken away from the initial monastery that he absolutely loved and then is put in charge of Kingsbridge. And I remember him being elected as some kind of church person, I don't know, but I remember him being elected and facing off against his enemies and scheming, but in a good way, but doing all the political maneuvers so that he could be in charge, and he's a good dude and he wanted to make the town prosperous and the church good, and that was fantastic to see over time him grow as a character and thus the town flourish as well. And then we've got Alia, our amazing heroine, who gets sexually assaulted in the start of the book and then gets her and her brother out of that situation and away, and then finds a way to make money by bargaining with a farmer to cart his produce to the market so that he doesn't lose money doing that and making enough for them, and then being able to rocket her and her brother out of the poverty that they suddenly had found themselves in. The triumph of the people in this book is missed in this one. It just felt like all the emotion was sucked out of this book and all the vividry of the setting as well. It was missing so much. So much was told to us and not shown. There's one section where one of our leading ladies, Sal, she gets sent to prison to do hard labor, which was fucking horrible in those days. But you know what? We don't get to see that it's horrible. We don't really get to understand why it's horrible. Maybe in that instance they didn't want to chop and change a bit because there is a lot of time jumps in this book. Maybe they didn't want to jump to the prison and then out again because it's not a story about her being in prison. But I just did not really feel any emotion for it. There's this one quote that I'll read to you guys. The home of Sal Box, who was in prison doing hard labor. They wanted to make sure her family were all right. And that's all we get. There was no emotion. It's just that she was sentenced to hard labor, off she goes, and then she comes back. It did not have enough emotional weight to it in the way that I wanted it to. But there was more emotion and description put into some things that just did not matter. Here's another quote. Most of the furniture had gone, including paintings, whose absence was evident from rectangular patches where the wallpaper had been protected from fading. To me, all of those words were not needed. You could have just said that the paintings were gone. You didn't have to explain why the main character knew that there was absence of painting. It didn't matter. Especially when we're in a book where a mother whose son gets sent to the federal court to be charged of stealing and potentially being hung only gets a sentence to say that somewhere the mother sobbed. I don't understand it. To be fair, there are lots of moments in this book where I was making audible sounds. I was gasping, calling out loud. There was a lot of things in this that I was still really happy about it. I finished the book, but it was just still missing a lot of stuff that I was quite disappointed by. I found the character of Hornbeam really interesting in An Armour of Light. He was a fascinating villain. I feel like to be slightly different for this book, Follett could have made this book mainly about the villain. We do get things from his POV because it's a third-person story and it does go in between people's feelings in the book. It's not just centered around the one character. It does hop around into Hornbeam's head and get his emotions. That was really cool. I really enjoyed that. It could have been a really cool twist to have told the story completely through the villain's point of view, because I actually felt more for him than I did for a lot of the other characters, because we spent a lot of time getting emotional descriptions from him, which was really good, but again, missed things. I wish this book was bigger, I really do, or it was a duology within the series, which I know would have been weird, but I just think that it could have benefited from a lot more emotion and it would have been a fantastic book, because unfortunately I did get bored in certain parts because there was no emotion, and then I started to really pay attention to where I was getting more interested, and it was when the emotion was shown. I will hand it to Ken though, in this one he really did change up the romance and the format of this one. I know in other reviews he's been criticized in the past for having the same romantic projection. I actually did not know in this one whether the couple that he was setting up for, but it wasn't the main focus of the story, whether they would actually end up together. That is it for my conversation of the difference in the start of Ken's series and the end. I don't know if he's going to keep writing books in this series. I will probably keep buying them in the hopes that they're going to be as amazing as this one. And like I said, I'm curious to read the next in the Century trilogy. The reason that I'm a little bit not confident is that it's not just An Armour of Light that fell a bit flat for me. I actually probably felt more in this book that I did in A Column of Fire and The Evening in the Morning to some extent. I didn't feel as much for those books, and I didn't feel as vindicated when certain things happened in the series. It didn't pull on me as much. So even though this was missing a lot and did a lot of telling instead of showing, when it showed, it was good. I'm just really hoping, but a little bit worried, that Ken may not be the author for me, that it might just be these two standout books being The Pillars of the Earth and World Without End that I've enjoyed, and that I might not like anything else. So we'll see. Thank you guys so much for checking out my channel. What do you think? Do you agree with this? Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. If you want to comment something and you don't know what to say, then please comment a church emoji for the Church of Kingsbridge, and I'll talk to you guys in another video.